sorry, we have to pronounce your last name. I can't read the writing, sorry. But Susanna, go.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. You have a heavy burden that has been placed on you tonight. Many questions have been asked. There are answers out there, and it is upon you to seek out those answers and to act in a Pahoa manner. So I will make this quick. Please live up to your responsibilities to the people. Please explore the answers to these questions that have been asked and are going to continue to be asked tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'm so sorry. If you could, for the record, read your last name to the record.
My name is Suzanne Wakeley.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you tonight.
We would like to thank you. Thank you very much.
So I live 1.5 miles downhill from PGB, and I hear the drilling day and night. It's been going on for quite a few weeks now, and I understand it's going to carry on for another month. And as we've been hearing this evening, numerous health and environmental problems with geothermal power are well documented. And legislative bills that are going through now are rapidly eroding the environmental safeguards and protection for the land, the nature, wildlife, and people and the culture. So it's known and documented that drilling and operation of geothermal wells is extremely dangerous, and exploration drills will become more commonplace right next to populated areas, and there's no guarantee of safety, even with the newer geothermal technologies that are being touted. So I'm here to say that I believe we cannot allow commercial industrial exploitation in the form of geothermal development in Hawaii. There are much better options available to reduce our dependence on fossil fuels. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you about it.
Thank you very much for your testimony. The next speaker tonight will be George Grable-Flair, to be followed by Sarah Snyder.
Aloha, Council. Thank you for being here tonight, listening to the trauma and pain of the people and their attempt to understand and bring forward answers and alternatives. But I want to first introduce myself. I'm speaking for Puna Rain, a nonprofit that has been organized, to address arbitrary discrimination that takes place in the formation of public policy. And in this issue is involved. The last battle left us with the Public Emergency Fund to deal with an industry we did not stop. The Hawaii Supreme Court told us to pray somewhere else. And emergency funds were proposed controlling geothermal emissions and offering to pay for the liability of these damages we cause. The gas mask, relocations, and suffering damages will be endured. We give thanks to Madam Paley for the public emergency funds, for they will be needed for the pain and suffering that has occurred. Smoke and fumes have not learned to stay in delegated areas. So can we expect a go given by the Supreme Court to become stop by our protest of this expansion? Our officials have not told us. The ink is dried, the contracts are signed. We are partnered in. anyway, we are partnered into the geothermal industry as victims and beneficiaries. That is what we won and lost in the Paley defense case decision. Again, thank you, Madam Paley, for attracting this win we gained in this payoff. We shall find remedy by stopping the divisive, arbitrary theft of these funds being used for the implementation of the Pahoa Regional Town Plan, now being attempted by the committee promoting using these hard-won funds, these emergency funds, for private commercial interests outside of the intended use of these funds to the tune of $69,000. We must focus on due process of law and equal protection of all those affected by any and all the emergencies on this island. We call for an investigation into the arbitrary activities that are now being exposed and ask for our vigilance to not ever stop returning to the love of the life in this land. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. The next testimony is Sarah Steiner, to be followed by Corey Harden.
Aloha, council members. Thank you for coming out. Although, like Steve Phillips said, you do represent us, and you're about the only hope that we have here is on the county level, because the state's already decided that there's no environmental impact statements needed to do their exploratory drilling. The state's already decided to pave the way for the permits to lay the cables down to Oahu. And I've lived here since I moved to Hawaii in 1983, and so I did live right in Leilani and experienced the blowouts, and the health effects are real, and it's not going to matter whether it's a Hawaiian indigenous nation doing the drilling or it's the people from Israel or wherever it comes from. It's not going to be any different. It's the same. And we're surrounded by ocean. We should do ocean technology. We should do solar, wind, conservation. Most of the people in Puna, we're not even on the grid, so we don't benefit from this. And Mr. Ha talked about how expensive gas is getting, but everything's getting expensive. That's because the government's just printing more and more money. And so the cheap rate that they're telling us they can drill geothermal for 20 cents a kilowatt hour. I mean, it's still going to go on the bill, the HELCO bill. They're going to get their cut. The ratepayers are going to pay IDG or whoever is going to get these royalties. OHA is going to get royalties. The state's going to get royalties. The county's going to get royalties, and it's all going to come from the HELCO ratepayer. They're going to tax the people's bill to give you guys your royalties, and it's just not fair. It's not the way that it should be. We need to just, I mean, they have solar now that works at night. The price of solar is going down. The price of gas is going up, but the gas they burn to create power on this island comes from the residual sludge of refining gas for everybody's cars. So we're really not importing oil to burn in our electric plants. We're importing oil for our cars, and we're using the sludge after they make the airline fuel and then the diesel fuel, and they make the gas for our cars, then they burn the rest of that. So I just really, you guys are our only hope to try and stop this. You really need to think about the people's health and, you know, not ruining our island for the benefit of the rest of the state. Thank you.
And this is Corey Harden, to be followed by Clyde Tiffany. Aloha.
Good evening. Thank you for coming to Pahoa to represent the people. I'm disappointed that Mr. Onishi and Mr. Ikeda didn't make it tonight. I think that PGB should be shut down before any new geothermal is allowed. And if there is new geothermal, that it be done with much greater care. There's something folks can do this week, council members also, to stop geothermal fast tracking. People can contact BLNR, Board of Land and Natural Resources, before Friday, which is when BLNR seems poised to okay a 65-year lease with no environmental assessment on the old HGPA site next door to PGB. The lease would go to NELHA, Natural Energy Laboratory of Hawaii Authority. NELHA has an old lease on the site that runs from 1979 to 2014. BLNR staff said there have been no known significant impacts since 1986 from the HGPA site. You heard from Bob some of the impacts, and Debbie Ward, chair of Sierra Club Mokuloa Group, but writing as an individual, cited these impacts: years of hydrogen sulfide venting, hazardous chemical spills, and toxic brine overflows that required numerous evacuations, contamination of groundwater, and hydrogen sulfide corrosion of roofs, gutters, and catchment tanks, leading to high levels of lead in drinking water. NELHA plugged the HGPA well about 1995. Has anyone been monitoring the air, soil, and water since then? When I called BLNR and NELHA, they had no immediate information on this. And by the way, plugging the well cost taxpayers about $300,000 and was supposed to be permanent. I asked what would be done under a 65-year lease, and no one seemed to know exactly. NELHA said they planned research, but they said that until specific projects were proposed, there would be no environmental studies. So I hope council and other folks will contact BLNR and call for no fast tracking for any geothermal projects. For this lease, I think they should have a public hearing in Pahoa and an environmental assessment. And for this site, there should be air, water, and soil monitoring whether or not there is a new lease. I gave this in writing to council people. If people want to call about this, the number is toll-free 974-4000, extension 70404. That's 974-4000, extension 70404 for this 65-year lease.
Thank you. The next testifier